Hello, I'm Tammy Beilstein. Welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras. I have with me today someone you all know and someone I know, and I really enjoy his company. And I tell you what, as soon as I see this guy, I'm always thinking, why do I not get to see you more often? I love being with him. This is Mike Taylor, and he is the editor of the Sierra Lodestar, which everybody knows about the Lodestar.
Just about,
Sierra Lodestar, did I say that correctly?
Yep,
yeah.
That's it. Yep.
The Calaveras Enterprise Sierra Lodestar,
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, and you were just telling me, Mike has been editor of that paper since it began.
Yep. Yeah, when we started it 8 years ago,
Wow.
I was it and helped. It wasn't my idea, but the idea for Sierra Lodestar kind of morphed after I had mentioned to the folks at the paper that there are people from all three counties that we cover, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne, who cross the rivers to go do stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always to go do fun stuff.
Yes.
You know, not as often do we cross the rivers, you know, to go to the doctor and stuff like that. But when we're going for entertainment, and really where it came from was live theater. And, you know,
you have always been involved in that through the Mazzaferro family and all of that.
Just
so
connected with all that. And they, so we started kind of talking about it, and we actually did a couple of workshops where we sort of brainstormed with people from the public and with some potential advertisers just to kind of get an idea of what they thought this paper should be. And the rest, I guess, as they say, is history.
Did you went into it knowing you would be the editor of this paper?
Yeah.
Is that something you went to school for?
No, I didn't even go to college. That's what really...
No way.
Yeah, that's what surprises people. And I credit two English teachers right here at good old Calaveras High School who, in fact, I've asked one of them, Tamara Stewart, since. I said, you know, did you grade based on what you knew a student was capable of and whether or not he or she, you know, rose to that level? And she said, yes, she did. And in my English classes were always straight A's.
Nice.
Don't ask me to do algebra or physics because
please.
I count this way. So
do I. Swear to God, every time I do my timesheet, I have to use my fingers.
Yeah,
Taking that half hour out for lunch totally throws me off. Every time.
Yeah, so I knew I had been the editor for what we called Just for Fun, which was the Friday entertainment section in the Calaveras Enterprise. And I just loved doing that. And so as Sierra Lodestar was being planned, we just kind of stepped right into that spot.
So tell those of us who have never worked at a newspaper, what exactly does the editor do? What are your responsibilities?
It's really kind of peculiar because I do the work that nobody sees.
Okay.
And that's what an editor does. An editor's job is to take the story that the writer submits and goes through it and obviously make sure it's all correct. But also I'm looking, especially around here, I'm looking for dropping in those little factoids that linger in the back of my head or those little connections that I know about, you know, that family was also part of that community or something like that. But the editor goes through and wants to make sure that the writer's story is telling a good story, but it's also kind of two different kinds of editing. And Sierra Lodestar, I get to be, and I don't want to use the word lazier. That sounds like I'm, you know, not doing my bit. But with a regular newspaper, the Calaveras Enterprise, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, that editor is making sure that that story is correct, that the writer, you know, is following that story. And really, it's kind of why I like Sierra Lodestar so much, because it's not like a newspaper. I don't have to follow the money.
Oh, Right.
In government, you have to follow the money to get the
Yeah.
story. And Lodestar, we get to follow the people.
That's really
and
nice.
the places that make the Mother Lode such a cool place.
Yeah.
So I read through that stuff. I'm basically chained to a desk. But editing everything, all of our contributors for Sierra Lodestar email me all of their photos and their stories.
Okay. So no one has to be in a big newspaper office like you'd see in the old
Not
movies?
really. Not the old days. And in fact, I did a what do you call it, press release workshop for the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce a few weeks ago. And I was telling them about how newspapers used to be laid out, where you had a machine that was called a linotype that spat out one column width of copy as long as the story was. So if you had a 2,000-word story, you'd end up with a big, long ribbon that was just a column wide.
Yeah.
And then it had to be pasted onto onto the
newspaper
dummy
sheet,
newspaper sheets, and then that was photographed. Well, now, thank goodness for computers, all of my work, all of the writing and the images for Sierra Lodestar, I pass on to Carolyn Ramsey, who does a terrific job laying it out and making it look as beautiful as it looks. And that's one thing that people, and it's interesting how the people from the 3 different counties comment differently on Sierra Lodestar. Folks from Amador County just absolutely love it, just swear by it, think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they like its visuals, its look.
Yeah, right.
And so I give Carolyn a lot of credit for that. And she's the one who takes, so basically I give her a budget that says this story goes, toward the beginning and this story here and that kind of thing. And from there, she lays everything out and we end up with an issue.
So now that it's not on a computer, if someone didn't do quite as long of a story as you were expecting, you could just make the picture bigger, right, to fill in space.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to fill those kinds of things. That's a funny thing from those old days.
Yeah.
Is we used to have what we called filler ads that were little, 1 column by an inch, where that's something just didn't fit, and that's where you saw a lot of those, visit us online, or those little things that you used to see in the newspaper.
So do you know ahead of time which story is going to be the front page main story, or do you wait till you collect them and see who had the best story?
No, with Sierra, and that's a good question, and it also highlights the difference between Sierra Lodestar and, say, the Calaveras Enterprise or a regular newspaper. I haven't figured out what to call Lodestar. It's kind of interesting. Sierra Lodestar, we always know what our feature is going to be every week. And Sarah,
and you decide that?
Yes. Well, myself and Sarah Lunsford, who writes the majority of them, and some other folks at the office, we get together and I equate it to the old Italian grandmothers who talk about making pasta. Yeah. You throw it on the wall and what sticks is what you're probably going to do.
Funny.
And what's interesting is in 8 years of doing all of these stories, we haven't exactly repeated ourselves because we know that we can come back every year, let's say, to the wine industry, and there's always something new going on.
Right,
there's always a new varietal that the winemakers are touting or suddenly has burst onto the scene. So we get to take those features, and so everyone, even the other contributors, know that, say on that particular Wednesday, the issue is going to be lake recreation, water sports kind of thing. And so maybe Jenny Baxter will do a column on, a picnic lunch to take on the boat or something like that. So if they have the opportunity to connect it to the feature, I encourage that. If they don't, that's okay too.
Okay. So each person gets their own story. You don't really combine them. If Sarah's writing about picnicking at the lake and the different lakes to go to, and Jenny is contributing what to bring for your picnic to the lake. Do writers share? Do they work together and collaborate on the story? They each get their own thing, their own space?
A lot of our contributors do, I guess I'll call it cross-pollinate. Sarah may be writing a story on, say, baking bread, and if she needs someone to talk about, what yeast does for the process, she might talk to Jenny about that, and then incorporate Jenny's comments into the story.
Oh, I see.
But Jenny, with her column then, in that bread baking issue, she may give a couple of great old family recipes for good breads.
So I think I was wondering, how do they get paid? So
we pay the contributors by the column inch. or by the word, basically.
Oh,
so, yeah,
okay.
and it's interesting because the very first time that I was ever published in a newspaper was for the Calaveras Prospect and Californian here in the county, the papers that were owned by John and Eleanor Peterson. And I wrote Mr. Mike's Mondo Video. Way back when Showtime Video was just in its little teeny tiny spot in the basement. And but because we didn't have a movie theater at the time in the county, we figured that video reviews would be the thing. And Ed Peterson, their youngest son, who was a friend of mine in high school, said, "You watch more movies than anybody. You should write a video review column." And I didn't really think 10 times about it. I just kind of wrote a column, and Eleanor paid me by the column inch.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And I
still do it.
I still have those copies of the first few columns that I wrote. Yeah, way back when, and that was about 1985 or 86.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So long ago.
I know.
Wow, that was what time I got married. That's a
right
long
out of
time
high
ago.
school. Yeah.
Oh my god. So the column inch is always the same size.
Columns are always basically, newspapers are pretty close. Several years ago, and USA Today, I think, was one of the first to do it, they went to the tabloid, the National Enquirer style of paper that opens like a magazine. Some newspapers went to that format. And then the way the Calaveras Enterprise comes out is what they call a broadsheet. Okay. That's the traditional newspaper.
Okay. So if someone who is not employed by the paper wants to write for you, when someone does like a guest spot, do they get paid for that?
They can. It depends. And that's how we get new writers, new contributors. One exception, I will admit, is Shelby French, the executive director of the Calaveras Wine Grape Alliance. She writes a column for us, and we don't pay her because usually what she's doing is kind of touting what the Wine Grape Alliance is doing. But again, that's another great voice, another wonderful resource, and I would have to sit there and pick Shelby's brain, to get all that stuff into something that I might write.
It's also interesting stuff that I never really think of. You pick up the paper, it's like, it's just magically,
and it all just magically appears.
It looks perfect. Yeah. You don't really think about all that behind the scenes stuff. If someone wants to contribute to the paper, they just send you a sample of what they've written before?
What I encourage people to do is give me a call or send me an email, and let's talk about what you think you might want to write. I mean, I would love to have, when we started doing Sierra Lodestar, and this is one of those, it's such a cool success story, and I'm going to kick myself for forgetting the name of his magazine now, but we had a guy from Sonora named Dean Fleming who wrote columns about rock climbing and hiking, and that was his bailiwick. That's what he did.
Bailiwick.
Oh yeah, I'm a writer. I know all those cool words. And so he wrote a column for me on hiking and all the trails. There's a trail on darn near every square mile of the Mother Lode. Yeah. So Dean wrote columns for that. Well, as he was doing this, he was also connected to other rock climbers and people up and down the state. He has since started his own climbing magazine.
Whoa.
And what's interesting is he adopted the Sierra Lodestar mindset. Give it away. The advertisers will buy into it because they know everybody wants a copy so bad. Yeah. So I congratulate Dean for getting out there and doing his own thing in his own bailiwick. And yet he was somebody who for the first couple of years was, a primary contributor to Sierra Lodestar.
That's really neat.
So, yeah.
That's really neat. Are you still looking for other people?
And yes, as you were saying, give me a call, send me an email. Hey, I'd like to write about hiking, or I'd like to write about, and kind of look at Sierra Lodestar too. I mean, we have a couple of people who write about food, so we probably don't need someone for food. And William Heinzelman has been our fishing guy since day one. And it's really funny because I know so many people in the community, and there are folks who tell me, who I know are fishermen, and they say, I just love, William's column, but darn it, I end up reading the whole dang thing.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, that's great. I know that you only really care about fishing, but you're gonna read the whole publication too, and that
it's easy to read. It's attractive, and the way you have it laid out, the stories are not too long.
Yeah.
You get the info that you need, but it's written well. I enjoy it. I know everybody does.
Yeah. The contributors are the folks who maybe not necessarily make it happen, but they're the folks who keep it happening, because they're doing such a great job contributing.
So when advertisers buy a spot, it's that advertising money that is put toward paying the writers and the printing of the paper. Wow. Okay.
And then a little bit left over for my salary.
For your salary, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Because your advertising rates are not huge.
They're not ridiculous. It's actually the cheapest way to reach the number of people that you can reach in the mother lode. Because, and I'm not one to point fingers and say, don't do that and don't do this, because depending on what your event is, let's say the Sonora Celtic Fair, you're going to want to do things on social media, and you're going to want to do things online, and you're going to want to do things in print in publications that people are picking up in the area. And because of Sierra Lodestar's wonderful reach, I mean, because it's distributed free in all of Amador, Tuolumne, and Calaveras County, and a little bit of Alpine because we send it up to Bear Valley too. So what's also really intriguing to me is I get more communication, more unsolicited comments from people who live in the East Bay.
Really?
Because they pick it up when they come up here.
Okay.
And then they take it home, and their neighbors down there learn that they love it. Yeah. And so there's one guy who, I forgot where he lives, but he and his wife brought us a case of corn last summer. They have family in Burson. Yeah. And when they come up here, all their neighbors, they live down in, I think, Isleton or something like that in the Delta. And he says, I can't come up here without bringing 3 or 4 copies home because all the neighbors want to see it. Perfect. Because it shows them what's going on in the mother lode. Yeah. But they said, no, we just love this thing so much. My wife and I wanted to bring you some corn. And that was almost better than Slough House. I hate to admit it, but that was really good corn. So.
And then you're like, Sarah, here's your portion of corn.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah. You get 4 ears for that story.
You really do a lot, though, with those advertising bucks then. I mean, I guess I never really put thought into it, what happens to that money, but you do a lot with those dollars. And the Lodestar is also online, correct? So people can go online and see these.
Yeah, SierraLodestar.com it gets a little confusing for folks, but it kicks to the Calaveras Enterprise website, and then you can find Sierra Lodestar there. And it's got kind of a reader where it's almost like turning pages, where you can look at a page at a time and scan through the page.
Yeah. And I have used that before. There was something that you had in there. It was years ago. I can't remember what it was, but it was something that my family was involved in. I knew there was a photo in there that I wanted to get, so I sort of did a little screenshot of the page, and then I can send it to the family that was out of the area. Yeah, little stars for today.
That's right.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Yep. Is Shasta right for you?
She kind of helps out. Shasta does some things kind of in the background at the newspaper, and she does a lot for the website. So.
Does she? I was going to ask who's your youngest and your oldest employee?
Gosh, I'm the oldest in the building now.
Are you really?
Yeah, because I started with the Enterprise on January 1 of 1998. Yeah. Because that's when Darrell Phillips, the guy who was going to bring all the newspapers together in the county, finally had the sale coming together. He was purchasing the Enterprise. Okay. And so I went from the Peterson's papers to the Enterprise because they were all coming under one roof.
Wow.
So
this is all you've ever done then?
I'm jack of all trades, master of none. I worked at both Winkler's and Treats markets in San Andreas as a meat cutter and a box boy way back in high school. Yeah. And I worked for the Sterling Title Company, which is now Placer Title here in the county. That was a really cool job that taught me even more about this county and all the cool neighborhoods and nice properties that are out here. So
that's so neat. I love what you do. You guys have been super helpful. I was going to bring up our hospice. At Hospice of Amador and Calaveras, we have events only like once or twice a year.
Yeah, a couple times a year.
Because we're not big on fundraising. We have to do it, but it's not why we're in hospice, you know. And so we so appreciate that when we do have something coming up, you guys always put something in there for us. And none of us are pros at doing those press releases and all of that promotion and advertising. But I know you look the stuff over. So people like us, people who have regular business people who have businesses want to do something like that. They don't need to be too intimidated because you'll go over it.
Not at all.
You'll correct it.
it's like I told folks at the press release seminar. I said, really, the main thing to do is think about what you want as a reader.
Yeah.
What is it? Where is it? When is it? How much are the tickets? And who do I have to call to get the tickets? Right. So once you've kind of covered those things, then you can add the flowery stuff. And that's like the comments from you on why this art show is going to be so cool or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I encourage folks, in fact, I tell members of bands that perform in the area, because that's the toughest thing. Boy, if you're into the music business around here and you feel like you want to write about it, get in touch with me, because I'd love to hear from you. Because there's live music playing everywhere in the Mother Lode. I mean, it's crazy. And you can hear everything from heavy metal to bluegrass, you know. And so, but I tell those band members, don't send me a link to your Facebook page. It's not my job to troll your site to find your events. But when you're going to perform at the Red Brick in San Andreas or at the Murphy's Hotel, send me an email. Murphy's Hotel, 8 o'clock, Friday the 22nd. No
and
cover
do they
charge.
Have to pay for that to get in the paper?
No,
they don't.
No, the things, especially in the happenings calendar in Lodestar, there are events back there that you have to pay for, obviously. Everything isn't free. But my attitude with those is basically, if it's an event that folks can go to and hear some music and enjoy a night out, yeah, that's what we're all about. So whether it's a $37 ticket to a Sierra Rep show for live theater, or it's one of the concerts at Ironstone Vineyards. You know, we've got a heck of a summer coming up there. I mean, they put together a really great series out there. And then you've got Twisted Oak with their Twisted Folk series. They released their schedule a few weeks ago. And so we've got so much music in the Mother Lode. And really there, I just mentioned one county.
That's crazy.
Haven't even mentioned Amador and all the bands over there, because they get a lot of acts that come up out of Sacramento.
Golly.
And then Sonora is its own little microcosm sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands. In fact, Guy Dawsey now works for us at the Enterprise, and he's got a band, and he's one of the best blues guitarists I've ever seen play live.
Really?
So yeah.
You do a lot of fun stuff with your work.
Yeah, our Christmas party this year is going to be pretty cool.
That is so neat. That's so cool. How often does the paper come out?
Every week. It's out on the stands, usually Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday is our publication date.
Okay.
And then my deadline, if you need to submit something, say for the calendar, is actually 2 weeks before each week. So if your event is happening in the middle of May, you should have sent me something by now.
That's where I was leading to.
Yeah.
So if so the little bands, 2 weeks ahead of time.
At least.
What if it's in a big event like an art auction? It's in September. Will we want to send you something in July, August?
Where I go with that is it's kind of a mindset, and this has changed over the past couple of years. 3 years ago, people's attitudes were, oh yeah, I'm planning ahead, and maybe we're going to go to that event 3 weekends from now.
Right.
Nowadays, it seems like, and really, I want to say that the recession kind of, as people tightened their belts a little bit, they got to Friday and decided what they were doing Saturday.
Right.
And so they're not buying tickets as far in advance as maybe they used to. Now, obviously, for something like a show at Ironstone, you're going to want to buy those tickets, in time so that you know you've got them. Yeah, and that's a good point, too, because I do hear that several of the shows are already looking like they're going to be sellouts.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is going to be a heck of a summer in Murphy's. But with a big event like your art show, I would say something like that, if there's a way that the public can see the artwork ahead of time, send me something as soon as that artwork starts appearing in the community.
Oh, okay.
And that way we can say, hey, if you want to check out what's available in this auction, go here and check this stuff out. And then as you get maybe a month away, then you say, hey, here comes the event. The tickets are this much. We're having dinner. This band is going to play. And we're going to have the silent, well, let's see. You have to have a pancake breakfast, a silent auction, and barrel roasted tri-tip or chicken, and you've got an event in the Mother Lode.
Right. I don't think we have ever done that, set the art out someplace in advance where people can come look at. We have their Facebook page where we'll post some pictures, but that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the area banks will accept something like that if you bring in, a 3-panel thing that doesn't take up a bunch of their space.
Right.
And,
Thank you.
Hey, that's why I get paid the medium bucks.
Medium bucks. Oh my goodness. So you have never been to a concert at Ironstone?
Oh yeah.
I have never been to one.
Really, it's 2 years ago. Well, yeah, before last year. Larry Richter, who's the guy who owns Richter Entertainment Group, that's the entity that puts together the series there.
Okay.
Larry came up and he spent over $100,000 expanding the stage at Ironstone.
Whoa.
That stage now can basically what they call hang any show that hits the road.
Yeah,
and in fact, I joked with Larry as the crane was lifting up some of the stage. I said, "Oh, so Madonna's going to be here, huh?" And he laughed and he said, I could do it, but people might not want to pay that much for a ticket and that's where he ends up having to draw his lines and look closely. Mm-hmm. Acts want to make X number of dollars per show.
Right.
And so if they can come to a venue like Ironstone that holds about 6,500 people.
Does it really?
Yeah. And if they can sell okay, we can make that money.
Yeah.
And we don't have to raise the lawn ticket prices to $80 or something like that. So
when someone goes to see a concert at Ironstone, you're not assigned any seating because it's all lawn.
Most of the property is that way. There is reserved seating down closer if you want, and they offer both buffet dinners and non-buffet dinners tickets. But you can buy, just like any other concert. So there's some reserved seating, and then there's the lawn or the general admission type seating.
That's interesting. I know this show is not about Ironstone. We only have 3 minutes left, but you got me thinking about how all this stuff works. There's so much going on.
It's one of those, we've got the county fair coming up, and that's always a weekend just full of, fun stuff to do.
Do you know that I am going to be co-hosting the Miss Calaveras pageant?
I saw that just this past week because we're putting together the fair guide right now. It'll be out the week of the fair in Sierra Lodestar. But I saw that. That should be cool.
That's so exciting.
I don't think I'm covering it this year, but that used to be my thing with the newspaper. Honestly, it was my way to only have to go to the fair and work once for the 4 days, and then I could go the rest of the time because you get much better photos when you're just there to kind of hang out and watch people enjoy the fair.
We only have, like I said, 2 minutes left, but I was going to ask you about that. For a little while, I was helping a friend who has an online news site. Mm-hmm. I felt really bad one night because some friends of ours asked my husband and I to come and attend an event with them, and I thought they were inviting us as friends to go, and I didn't bring any camera or paper, anything. I thought we were going as friends, and I show up and they see us, and they're looking at me like, "Where's your camera and your stuff?"
Oh goodness!
Does that happen to you?
Well, honest, if I wanted to, I could go to every show at Ironstone and all these kinds of events, but I don't take advantage of that because I don't want to wear out that welcome, so to speak. And so, if I can get to a show, I will. But no, I don't. I try not to take advantage of them, and vice versa.
Hope they don't take advantage of you. Yeah. Oh God, half hour. We need to plan 2 hours with Mike, everyone. I just barely got to the stuff I wanted to talk to you about.
It's been great to be here, Tammy.
Thank you for coming on.
Let's
seriously do this more often. If we don't do it here, let's meet up someplace more often. I love hanging out with you.
You bet.
We match.
Gotta go wine tasting,
Oh, I don't drink.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go coffee tasting.
Yes. I can do that. Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.
Love having you.
Thanks.
Well, we're done. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time on Tammy's Window on Calaveras.